Part 2, The Man Who Read Too Much. I landed in Chicago O'Hare Airport at 4:15 p.m. The city felt different from how I remembered it, colder, quieter. Maybe it was just my imagination, or maybe it was the weight of everything I'd uncovered so far. I took a cab to Ethan Caldwell's last known address, a decaying apartment building on the western side of the city, the kind of place where people mind their own business, where tenants come and go without ever really knowing each other. I wasn't expecting much. After all, Ethan had disappeared nearly 3 years ago, but as soon as I stepped into the building, I knew something was wrong. The hallway leading to Ethan's apartment smelled of mildew and something stale, a mix of old wood, damp carpets, and decay. I knocked on the landlord's door first. A woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a smoker's cough let me in. "You a cop?" she asked. "Journalist," I corrected. She sighed, lighting another cigarette. "You're not the first one asking about him." That got my attention. "Who else came looking?" She hesitated, then said, "Some guy in a black coat, didn't give his name, asked about Ethan, then left. A man in a black coat, the same kind Ethan had mentioned before he disappeared." I pushed for more details, but the landlord refused to say anything else. "Whatever happened to him, I don't want to know. And neither should you." She handed me the keys to his old unit and shut the door. I went upstairs. Apartment 4B, Ethan's last known residence. The lock was rusted but still intact, meaning no one had broken in. I turned the key and pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. Dust, old paper, and something faintly metallic. The furniture was still in place. His bookshelves were full of strange titles. Some I recognized, others I didn't. His bed was untouched, as if he hadn't slept in days before disappearing. But it was his desk that caught my attention. A laptop still plugged in, a half-finished cup of coffee, dried to the rim, a notebook open to the last page, and on that page, written in jagged, desperate handwriting, "They are coming." I flipped through the notebook. Most of it was nonsense, scattered thoughts, diagrams, book titles, but some phrases repeated over and over. "The last book is not a book. They exist outside of pages. Do not reach score 15. I turned back to his laptop. The screen was frozen on an error message. "File not found, the last book.pdf. That's when I heard it, a knock at the door. I didn't move. The knock came again, slow, deliberate. My heartbeat hammered in my ears. I stepped closer, peering through the peephole. A man stood outside, dressed in a long black coat, his face obscured by the shadows of the dim hallway light. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, watching. I held my breath. After a minute, he turned and walked away. I waited another 10 minutes before daring to open the door. The hallway was empty, but taped to the door was a note. "Your score 5. I left the building immediately. Back in my hotel room, I copied everything from Ethan's laptop onto my USB drive. One corrupted PDF file stood out, the last book.pdf. No matter what I tried, it wouldn't open. Every time I attempted to repair it, my software crashed. Then, as I was working, my screen flickered, and a message appeared. "You should stop now, Nathan." I didn't type that. I wasn't connected to the internet. A chill crawled up my spine. I slammed my laptop shut. Then I noticed something even worse. On the hotel's blank notepad, beside me, someone had written something. 3 words in my own handwriting. "They are coming." I hadn't written that. I grabbed my things and left. I needed answers. According to Ethan's research, there was one person who had reached a score higher than 15 and survived, an ex-librarian named Joseph Mallory. In 2019, he accessed Nocturna Libri. By 2020, his score had reached 18. By 2021, he had vanished. But his disappearance was different. Unlike Ethan, who had no traces left, Joseph's family reported strange occurrences before he went missing. He started talking to someone who wasn't there. Books would move on their own. He said they were watching from between the words. The last time anyone saw him, he had locked himself in his basement, screaming about pages that breathe. When the police broke down the door, the basement was empty, but the walls were covered in writing. Every inch was filled with the same phrase, scrawled over and over. The last book is not a book. And in the center of the room, left open on the ground, was a single blank book. I found Joseph's last known address, a house on the outskirts of the city, abandoned for 2 years. No one had been inside as he disappeared. Tomorrow, I'm going in, but something tells me I might not like what I find.